Today's lecture is about outer space.
Okay, Gur. Our mission begins now. Let us rain some doom down upon the filthy and unseen enemy. Yes, my master. I got a thing to do so now.
What's up, creeps? You're listening to the Butcher Block on Roto Radio. Our caller number is 347-326-9741. 347-326-9741. I am Brian the Butcher Brown. Joining me is my boss of BillBrown1. What's going on, brother?
Same old, my man. Just sitting here waiting for the knowledge to be dropped.
Absolutely. How was your week?
Oh, it was it was fantastic. Just starting a new job, and just trying to settle in there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty good. How about yourself, sir?
Same as usual, sitting around, doing not much, looking at the computer, but working here and there. But yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How's the new job going?
Well, not too bad. I cannot complain. It's pretty much same as it ever was. Seeing as I didn't exactly change that much. Just places, so to speak.
Nice.
So.
Well, it's good that way you can slide right in there, and then hopefully in a couple of weeks just coast through.
That's the
what I
total
like to
plan. That is the total plan. Just take it on autopilot, keep my head low, and just that's it.
I definitely agree with that. That's the way to do things. Speaking of being on autopilot, what's going on, Scott from Modesto, Steve?
Not much. Goes with the autopilot. Just same old.
No, that's pretty much what everybody's on these days. Autopilot. You just keep coasting through the days.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I got.
We are some interesting motherfuckers.
Absolutely.
Look at me dropping the first F-bomb of the night. That's right. I'm getting started, folks. That's
Potty
right.
mouth.
This is not a
violation.
family show.
And you will be punished.
Mm-hmm.
You will be punished.
I've
How
got an
dare
F-
you?
so far. So.
What's that? An F minus?
Mm-hmm. So, thank you, sir.
Yeah, so I was a little late on that because I wasn't paying attention, so I apologize.
It's all right. I was, you were probably still listening to the Modest Mouse track in the background. That's fine. I was thoroughly distracted as well.
I was trying to ignore the both of you and listen to the tunes and enjoy myself, but I guess that's not what we're here for. I guess we're here to discuss some MMA news and drop some news down and some knowledge. So, I was going to see where you boys maybe wanted to start the night. Any ideas?
I was thinking that it would be nice to find out that our boy, to talk about how our boy Frankie, our New Jersey boy Frankie, got his the title rematch that he's been basically demanding, since the decision, since he lost the decision against Mr. Benson Henderson. So
I like your style. I like how you're showing that we're not complete homers pulling for our boy. And expecting him to get his damn rematch, and it's not nothing to do with the fact that we're from Jersey and Frankie's from the area and everything like that. We definitely I think we're all in agreement that he won that fight. But go on, Billy. I'm sorry I jumped on you there.
Oh no, totally fine. I mean, I'm going to sit here and pretend that I actually saw the fight. Oh,
Jesus.
Yes. I was otherwise engaged the evening of this of this particular card, and it was one that I was unhappy that I didn't see, especially when I heard that he lost, and that by all accounts, at least from YouTube creeps and at least one of your other broadcast partners. Right? Didn't Dolan say that he thought he might have eked out the win? But of course, Franco had the one who said no way, because.
Well, I don't know. I can't remember if Franco was on Benson's side. I really don't remember what his, because of course he didn't show up to give his review of that fight.
Oh, that's nice.
He's absent every so often. I believe 9 times he's been absent so far. So.
9.
Yeah, one more and his year doesn't count. So that's all I know. And he's in danger of not getting that diploma. But no, Dolo said he thought it was closer than I thought it was 3 rounds to 2. An argument for 4 rounds to 1 for Frankie. So, yeah, I'm sure Nick said, no, fuck you guys. Benson Henderson won the fight. Just to be a jerk to us because, you know, that's what he likes to do. He likes to smack us around.
No, but I'm excited to see the basically the replay. So seeing as I didn't get to see the original, you know, and since Frankie's fighting uphill, you know, I do think he's a gamer, and maybe, you know, he just like with the second Maynard fight, instead of leaving it in the hands of the judges, you know, he knocked Mr. Gray out. So, you know, maybe this is a good thing. But, you know, we got to start, instead of the answer, he's just going to be called back-to-back from now on, I think, because this is the 6th fight where, you know, he's fought 6 fights in a row, but, like, only 3 opponents.
Yes, same dude every time. So I assume this will end their series even if Frankie wins because he just does back-to-back. He hasn't gone back-to-back yet. So hopefully it's not a close fight. I hope you're right, Billy, because we would be in danger of 3 in a row against the same exact cat. You know, that would be terrible, I think.
Yeah, man. You know, doesn't even need to review tape at that point. He's just sort of like, all right, I've already done this. You know, I've done this twice now. You know, let's just start round 7. You know, round 11 actually. So
ring the bell, ding ding,
ding ding.
But no, I hope you're right. I hope Frankie can end it. But unfortunately, as we've seen, the only way that Frankie can do that is if he gets the balls beaten off of him in the first round. So hopefully Benson Anderson comes out like a freight train. You know what I'm saying, Steve?
Yeah. I had a question. Do you think, since there was so much, you know, controversy in the internet and Twitter went crazy for it, do you think that the judges might actually sack up and, you know, learn the differences between the strikes and the takedowns and everything? Because I don't think Frankie's going to change the way he fights. I think he's going to come out and fight his game, and, you know, and if he gets the knockout, whatever. But I think if he tries for the knockout and he, you know, changes his style, he might get caught because, you know, he'll be doing something he's not used to. So I think he fights his game. It's just, you know, can the judges actually see, you know, what's going on, or are they just going to go, nah, we're just going to, you know, gas at the end like we did last time? Yeah. Well, Frankie, he's still all beaten up. He's bleeding again. So, yeah, he obviously lost the fight. So we'll give it to the other guy, you know? Like, because I don't think Frankie's he's not going to fight a different game. So I don't think anything's going to change. I think it's going to go to a decision. And, you know, hopefully, you know, the judges see the way that, you know, the way it should go. Because last time I thought it was a travesty, so.
I agree with you on that. I mean, I definitely had Frankie win that fight hands down. I mean, he had takedowns. He, you know, shook off Benson's takedowns when Benson shot in. So, and he was definitely very effective, not just counter-striker in that one. He was staying in the pocket a little bit more than he usually does and getting off some nice combinations. Now, of course, you know, you can make the argument that Benson landed the hardest strikes. He certainly, you know, of course, everybody clamoring about damage, which, you know, depending on who your judges are, because, of course, judging is a subjective thing, I guess damage can come into play, but it isn't actually part of the scoring system, and it shouldn't be, just like it never has been in boxing, because, you know, that's why guys can, you know, kind of get the shit beat out of them and come from behind, because, you know, obviously, you know, damage can be a problem. You can damage your opponent where you can't continue, but as long as the guy's still capable of fighting and getting off the way he needs to, there's always that chance that he can win the fight. He could still be outscoring a dude because, you know, maybe the other guy just hits harder, or, you know, his shots that he got in were just, you know, better shots. Just because they were better shots and more damaging doesn't mean that he scored more. So I'm kind of going into
still one
answer.
Shot.
Yeah.
You know, whether it did more damage or not, it still was only one. And
exactly.
You could even make the argument that Frankie blocked every one of those, you know, strikes.
Yes.
I mean,
he blocked
them with his face. He blocked them with his face, but, you know, he blocked them. That's how he fights. He just leads with his face, but he doesn't get knocked down. So you can't bring damage into the equation because, you know, he's actually fighting his game plan. He's like, I'm going to wear this guy out with my face because it's not going to break anything, so let's do this.
Well, that's a very good point. And you're right. He did block a lot with his face. but not as many as that CompuStrike claims that he blocked with his face, which I still don't know where those numbers came from.
I don't know where all those. Yeah, apparently I zoned out during the fight, because I didn't see a lot of those strikes that CompuServe said that he threw. So I
didn't either.
I don't know where these numbers come from.
To give you a short answer on your question about the judges learning, no, not going to happen.
No. I was going to jump in and say that myself, actually.
Well, by all means, pretend I didn't say it.
Okay. Short answer, Steve, no. No,
I agree with you.
Basically, yeah. No, you know what? I think it's going to take a lot more than the controversy over the Edgar Henderson decision before the judges actually smarten up and learn the sport. I think it's going to take a hell of a lot more time than that. We are in for an ass ton more of awful and awful decisions.
It's been 3 events in a row now with a controversial decision. You think that maybe eventually somebody might go, oh shit, we gotta, people are starting to slam us, and people are starting to learn the judges' names, which is always a bad thing for the judge because you shouldn't know the judges' name. If you learn who the judges are, that's because they're not doing their job. So, as soon as you see a fight and you know that Cecil Peoples is scoring it, you just go, oh, fuck.
Yeah. You're going to get a couple beers during this fight.
Exactly. Unless this ends in a knockout or a sub, somebody is going to be pissed off. Because he's looking at other judges' scorecards going, oh, I zoned out. What's going on here?
No, I think we're
in that point.
Yeah.
As you get to that point, where people are learning the judges' names because of their horrendous decisions, that should be like a wake-up call to them and to the commissions of all these states going, people are fucking getting pissed about this. There's all this controversy where, because as soon as they start losing money, then, then they'll make their decision, but they should probably try to start that before they start losing their money.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you, Steve. I think that we're sort of at the point, we're at the it's getting worse point before it gets better. So I think that we're probably still a ways off from it, though, that there's, yes, you're right, 3 events in a row. So you got people going, particularly people who actually pay attention to the sport instead of, the ones that boo when, 2 guys are basically in a chess match on the ground, and because there's no punching, that type of fan. Doesn't have any idea, it's just the losers like us who who are starting to learn these guys' names, and for their awful judging. And you're right. At some point, it's going to happen. Hopefully, you get people who've been around the sport or participated in the sport to actually start getting spots in the commission to be judges. But that's the other thing that you got to think about too. I mean, these people are dialed in with the commission, and again, who do they have to answer to other than the commission? And
exactly,
the commission is just going to be like, what? They're doing their job. They're scoring the fight as they see it, and because it's subjective. You can have 15 different viewpoints. I mean, look at how the Diaz fight. I mean, it was pretty much. I mean, depending on which side of the argument you fall on, you could sit there and say, "Oh, look at how many people thought Nick won."
Poor Diaz.
But I mean, there were a lot of people that said he didn't win. So I mean, either way you look at the argument, there's people who support both sides. So. I don't think that, it's definitely not going to be solved before their 3rd fight. No way. We're going to still have the same shitty judging that we have now.
Absolutely.
And we just got to sort of hope that, Cecil Peoples isn't involved and that, hopefully we've got 3 people sitting at the desk, that at least have sort of an idea and they're not trying to listen to Joe Rogan to get tips on how to do their scorecard.
Absolutely, dude. I was just going to say that hopefully Joe is not sitting anywhere next to them because I think I've gone off about this for like 3 weeks in a row now. That as much as I love Joe Rogan, it's been really annoying. And with his loud mouth, I'm really starting to get concerned that since the judges really don't seem to give a shit, they're just going, well, Joe thinks that dude's winning.
Well, apparently it wouldn't matter where they were sitting because according to Rampage, he's got such a high squeaky bitch voice that you could hear him all the way across the arena. Yeah.
Speaking of Rampage, I will get back to the lightweights in a second, but obviously you guys know I do a Monday show. Did you guys know this? That I also do a Monday show called Cauliflower for the Ears.
I've never heard that.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm going to have to sit down and listen to this every now and then.
You should.
I'm actually offended that you do another show besides ours.
I'm sorry, guys. Just look at it this way. I'm not getting paid twice, okay, to do either one of these shows, all right? Look at it that way. I'm only getting paid the regular rate, and, what's that?
Nothing. I'm laughing.
Oh, okay. Because, I don't want to rub it in what I'm making, but, it's pretty good money, all right? And sooner or later, this show, I'm sure, will break just like the other show did, and we'll all be sitting on Easy Street in no time. You know what I'm saying?
Right. On my podcast.
Or we'll grow bored of it and just not do it anymore. Who knows? Okay, it's all up in the air at this point, people.
Nice.
But Rampage, I went into this little thing about Rampage, on Monday, talking about him doing the testosterone and stuff, which, he full well admitted. It's not like he was caught. He didn't fail a drug test or anything. They didn't find extra testosterone in the system, so I guess he somewhat used it responsibly. But in the interview, he was going off how, he was trying to claim it wasn't a performance enhancer, but then was saying he was doing it 5 times a night in the bedroom, and he gained so much muscle from it, and he felt like a 25-year-old again, and healed his body up. Even though it's technically a natural substance that you produce and everything, the way he portrayed it in his interview was like, this is the best performance-enhancing drug I've ever taken in my life.
How old is Rampage? 33?
35, I thought, isn't he?
39.
No, you're right. I think he's 33. Yeah, Billy's right. You're right.
Because he always makes
he's got a lot of miles on his body, Billy. You got to remember, he's had a lot of fights, and those Pride fights were brutal because of all different strikes that could go into it,
Mm-hmm.
But in that same interview, he was saying since he discovered this and he felt like such a young buck, there was no chance that he was retiring anytime soon. Well, during the course of the week, Rampage has said after his next fight in the UFC, he is done. Okay, that will be his last fight. And he's not 100% saying he's getting away from the fight game, but, he just doesn't, his body doesn't heal right. He's always nagging him, and, people getting on his case about training. It's not that he doesn't like training, it's just that he's always injured. But also he had to throw this in that, if he does fight again, it's going to be somewhere else because UFC means you fight cheap. So this is a man who gets paid hundreds of thousands of dollars each time he goes out to the octagon. The last time that his pay was officially reported, I think it was like 2 years ago. It was $325,000 just to fight. And since he's such a huge draw, he gets a part of that pay-per-view money too. So I just thought it was kind of, weird. In the one interview after he lost to Ryan Bader, he was saying he's ready to just keep on trucking, and now all of a sudden he's ready to retire and hang it up. And apparently the UFC just doesn't line its pockets too much. So I just don't get it. I really don't. So I just want to throw it out there.
Diaz?
Oh, maybe.
Oh.
Yeah, I complain about that. Although Nick Diaz doesn't make what he makes per fight, but
well,
that seems to be like the new topic always.
Well, yeah,
nobody's getting paid enough. Yeah, nobody's getting paid enough. Nobody's getting paid enough to fight 2 fights a year, sometimes 3. 3 nights a year to work. And I get paid enough. Now, I know they got to pay the gyms and the trainers and all that shit, but that's what I have.
But the Rampage money, that's
too.
what, $50,000 out of that check?
Yeah. And plus he's getting sponsors and shit, so he's getting money from all that.
Yes.
I don't know how he's not making enough. I think he just wants to go back to Japan so he can have some more children.
Well, did you see that house? Ariana Celeste interviewed him at his house, and his house was fucking ridiculous. And then they went outside to check out his sweet rides, and, God, I'm trying to remember what he...
was his monster truck there?
His monster truck was there, the one that he was in trouble with the law with. But it's okay now. He's got it back. But he also had the A-Team van, and I forget the other 2 cars. Jesus Christ. But they were very expensive cars. So I was just... You know, this
he had
guy
the
doesn't
A-Team
get paid
van,
enough.
he had the General Lee, and that car from Starsky and Hutch.
Thank you.
That's
That's exactly what
He's
he has.
collecting TV shows.
And then he also has Herbie the Love Bug, too. Okay, so...
We got the Batmobile out there or anything?
Yes, but the Tim Burton Batmobile, which definitely just could not really drive down the street. That thing was, ridiculous.
No, you couldn't make a right-hand turn in that thing.
Absolutely not. This would have been dangerous, You would have rolled that thing every fucking time.
No, it had that grappling hook. It had that.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So
that's why he had it. I forgot about that thing.
Which punches holes in buildings so that you can make those fixed right-angle turns.
Yeah, he kills the tenant downstairs, and Batman's just like, hey, whatever, I had to make a right-hand turn.
All right. The penguin's down the street. Fuck this.
Yeah, take that, people. Batman's driving around, okay? It doesn't matter if you're safe at home.
I'm going to drive this car up a building. How do you like that?
I forgot he did that. I got to watch that movie again. That movie fucking ruled.
I think he did do that in one of the movies.
He did. He definitely did.
It was. I don't remember if it was one of the two Tim Burton movies or if it was Batman Forever. Because Brian refuses.
Schumacher.
Brian refuses to watch Batman and Robin, so I know it didn't happen in that one. So
that movie doesn't exist. The movie does not exist. No way. You know what that movie gets? It gets.
I agree. Sorry to admit that I did actually see it, and I wish I hadn't.
We're not friends.
To this day, that's one of my biggest disappointments. That and the first Hulk movie.
Really? I like boners.
That's what I got to say to you, Steve. For mistake shots at Hulk. All right? Oh, God. I know we got off topic there with the Rampage talk.
Rampage.
Yeah.
He's crying that, he's not making any money. You want to know what Dana's response to that was?
I didn't see it, no, so I'm glad you have this.
Yeah, I thought it was funny because, of course, they asked Dana, and they were kind of hoping that Dana would do one of his normal, fuck that guy type of things. And instead, Dana, was actually very low-key, and he was just like, yeah, I pretty much just gotten off the phone with Rampage before he went on his little Twitter explosion against us. He's like, and I thought we were good. One of the things that he was mad at me about was the fact that I had said publicly that, I felt he hadn't approached his latest fights the way he used to, that he was, just sort of kind of showing up. And he's like, and that's really what I think it is Rampage, he doesn't like criticism, because, he's like, everything was fine. He was raring to go after the fight. And then, I said what I said, and that's apparently when Rampage got mad at me. And we had a big, long conversation about it. And, I said, he said, well, one of the things I'm mad about is what you said about how I'm approaching my fights. And I said, look, dude, it's not like I said you were a fucking scumbag, Oh. And Rampage's response was, I'd almost rather you said that instead of what you said. He's like, so Rampage, he's like, Rampage just doesn't really like criticism. So Rampage is reacting the way Rampage reacts. He's like, I don't know what's going on. He's like, I think he takes his losses hard too. So this is how he's reacting to the whole situation. He just lost his last fight. He's mad at me for criticizing him. So now he's saying that, we don't pay enough and whatever. We'll just see what happens.
Yeah. Well, Rampage does take him a little rough because, he claimed he had an injury which may or may not have been true. It could have just been that the testosterone bloated him like crazy, since he did admit that after the fight. But, yeah, he had to take a shot at Ryan Bader by saying, I don't know what he's all happy about. He beat Rampage, a 20% Rampage. I mean, he didn't even give himself 40%, Like, that's some pretty harsh shit to say, that the dude only beat 20% of you. I mean, I don't know even how you could state that kind of shit.
If you're only 20%, how could you even get out of bed?
I don't know. I can't get out of bed.
Laid up and, dead.
Yeah, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it's 60% I'm calling out, maybe even going to the hospital at 60%. At 80%, I'm definitely whining and asking somebody to get me a tea. Bring my food to me in my bed at 80%. But at 20%, yeah. I think maybe instead of getting in the ring, you might want to call an ambulance. You know,
you're certainly in bad shape there. You're in a lot of trouble.
One of us is in deep trouble.
So you probably shouldn't be going to the octagon because you're just gonna get an L on your record. You know.
I don't know, man. Back in the day, you were at 20% health. You know, you had like something beeping at you, like in that haunts your dreams, like in Legend of Zelda, when you get down to like one heart, and you're just like, oh my God, please don't get hit, please don't get hit, please don't get hit. You know, and there's Rampage, 20% health, stepping in the ring with a professional fighter. I mean, what's he thinking? You know.
Well, I got to say though, when you were down to that half a heart tank, you did get a little bit more zeroed in on the game and started pulling out some sick moves to survive. You know, so maybe that was.
I gotta agree. It did focus you when you get down there because you didn't just go in swinging your sword. You started moving from pillar to pillar, dodging.
I wonder if Rampage was hearing that horrible beeping noise in his head the entire fight. You know, reminding him that he was only at 10% health now because he's been fighting for 2.5 rounds. You know?
That's probably why he was distracted in the fight. He was looking for a fairy.
Oh.
He was like, where's a fairy? I need to knock something. I need to break a pot so I can get a fairy. I can win this fight.
Oh. Why would
couldn't carry one of those bottles in.
So mean to say. Jesus. All I know is what? Well, wow.
Yeah, I have no idea what just happened with that.
We all just banged heads there. It was great. No, I was going to say, Rampage just better watch his mouth with all the shots he's taking at the UFC because if he's not careful when that contract runs up, he's going to become the next Tim Sylvia. We'll talk about him later, though, because I know we did want to get back to the lightweights, but that just has gotten sadder and sadder over the weeks. I know we keep talking about him every week, but I think it's going to conclude. Maybe not, because Tim Sylvia has been working the Twitter a lot lately. So we'll talk about him a little bit later. But anyway, back to the lightweights. You guys brought up Nick Diaz, and Nate Diaz was recently in the news because he gave an interview, and he was happy to see that. Actually, he was asked what his opinion was on the Frankie Edgar Benson Henderson, and he himself said, it was a really tough fight to call, and he said it was really close. So of course he was pulling for Frankie because he's actually trained with him before, and he trains with the Gracies over here, and of course they're obviously Gracie's related to Gracie. So then he was asked about Benson getting Benson and him rematching, and how his fight initially with Jim Miller was supposed to be a title eliminator, which according to Dana White it still is. So. Of course, he was asked his opinion, and he said he really has no interest in fighting Frankie, but at the same time, he's going to be pulling for Frankie because, he can't root against them either. So, kind of puts him in an awkward spot. But did you guys see that interview?
I was watching it, and I have to say that while he is not as aggressive as his big brother, he is so uncomfortable to watch because, he barely makes eye contact with you. Like, it's one of those things, like, it's almost like he thinks that you're both going to, burst into flames if he actually looks at you. I mean, they were standing in a pretty much empty hall. Okay, there was maybe a total of 20 people behind them, and Nate was acting like there was something more interesting going on, like off screen, rather than look at Ariel Helwani. And he wasn't, like I said, he's not aggressive. He's not getting in Ariel's face. He's not even acting like he doesn't want to, he doesn't want to answer the questions. It's just he's so awkward, and you can just tell that he would rather be anywhere else on the planet than talking to another person. But he's going to talk to you, but it's just so weird to watch him,
Yeah.
And I put in a good 3 minutes, and I'm never going to get those 14 hours of my life back, because that's what it felt like watching that interview. I mean, I like watching Nate fight, but watching him talk is just painful. And it must be painful for him to do it, because it certainly was painful for me to watch it. So I didn't even really know that there were any points made in that interview, because I was just so uncomfortable for everybody involved.
There were 0 good points made, yes, obviously because of the uncomfortability, but I love both Diaz brothers. I love watching them interviewed because it is just so uncomfortable, so ridiculous, and you know, it is like they just don't. It's like I got to do this. I guess I kind of want to do this, but I'm not going to give any straight answers. I'm uncomfortable. It is just awesome watching either one of those guys be interviewed. But you are right. Because obviously, you know, Nick is a ticking time bomb because he's a lot more aggressive with it, whereas he's trying to blow them off, and he's still got this mean edge to him. But, yeah, Nate is less aggressive than Nick and just keeps kind of drifting off and never really hits on a solid point ever at all. At least, like Nick will say something or say something to the effect of, like, making you look like a fucking stupid jerk-off if he thinks you asked a stupid question, you know, whereas Nate's just kind of like, oh, yeah, you know, and then starts talking about how he trained with Edgar and stuff. And never really gives a straight answer on who he'd rather fight. It's really odd, but it's just so cringy that I just love watching them be interviewed because you know the interviewer is like, where do I go from here? What do I ask next? And I gotta hand it to Helwani that he was able to just keep firing out questions and somehow get some sort of information a piece together. But he did ask if Nick was really retired, and you know, Nate thinks he is. What do you think about that, Steve?
I don't believe that for a second.
Oh.
I think they're still playing their game. You know, Nick likes to, you know, have his name in the headline and stuff. So I think they're just playing their game. He's gonna come back to this. Try it. No, I think he does.
You do?
I mean, I don't think he's comfortable with it, but I think he likes people talking about him. He just doesn't like to be there while they're talking about him.
All right.
He doesn't like to, you know, be talking in person about, you know. But he likes to. I'm sure he likes to read his name on the interwebs and stuff. But I just don't think he likes being there, being actually physically there while they're talking about it.
I guess
you know, that he'll come in and make his triumphant return and all that, and be the biggest badass again. So I think he'll be back. And,
I guess I'll take. Go on.
I didn't see that interview, but I've seen other interviews with Nate Diaz and stuff, so I know what you guys are talking about.
Yeah. Well, you should.
And Nate is great because he's got a permanent mean mug on his face. Like, even when he's not trying to, like, mean mug you, he just has that face that it just looks like he's mean mugging you, even when he's trying to be nice and answer the question. It makes me laugh.
it just looks like he's being so drained because it's just like, oh, my God, when is this going to end? And, you know, it just looks like it hurts. And you know what?
Yeah.
I gotta say, you know, I get some anxiety running through me when I'm out and about as well, so I guess I kind of get it. But, I mean, these guys are in front of the cameras all the time, so I don't know why it just hasn't relaxed, you know, at all. But I don't know. And maybe you're right about Nick liking to see his name when he Googles it, because I know I've tried to Google my name, and I don't see it, and I get disappointed. So perhaps that's a nice perk of being a superstar. But I don't know, dude. He really seems like he could really give a shit about a lot of this. And Nate pointed out this triathlon season, so Nick's going to be very busy, and he's probably just going to be running triathlons and concentrating on training and being healthy.
I didn't realize there was a season for that.
But neither did I. I learned something new. See, so we all fucking dogged Nate in that interview, and he did teach us something. That triathlon season is here.
The one thing, though, that I do want to take, that I did sort of take away from that, is how, even though I'm happy that Frankie got his rematch, it just totally frigs up everybody in that division, because of course they were tossing around Pettis' name, as a possible next opponent for Henderson, and I mean originally, he was supposed to fight for the title anyway, and it got put on the back burner when Frankie had to fight Gray the second time. So now he's still in limbo. And like you had brought up earlier, Nate's fight with Miller, that was supposed to be a title eliminator. And while they're still saying it still technically is, I mean, are they really going to skip over Pettis again in order to give the next title shot after this rematch? Are they just going to skip Pettis again? Because it seems like they've got a real hard-on for trying to get him a title shot too. So, it's just sort of now, Frankie losing that belt or losing that decision, whether you believe he lost it or not, was almost like, the worst thing for every other fighter in the lightweight division.
Absolutely.
Now everybody's, or actually the fact that it's a controversial loss, okay? Because maybe if Henderson had put him away, maybe they wouldn't have been so quick to give him a rematch. He could have shouted for it from the top of whatever, from saying that he wanted that rematch. But if he had gotten beat decisively, it wouldn't be as attractive as a fight. And they could have probably just did the end around on him and given the shot to Pettis or something like that. But since it was so close, it just totally left all the rest of the fighters not really knowing what they're fighting for, I guess. So that's the downside. I guess we're just going to have a bunch of interesting fights in the lightweight division for the rest of the year. So, I guess they lose, but we win.
Right, exactly. Because every fight for all these guys who are at the top, and of course it's a logjam now, especially because of that. And you are right. I mean, if Benson could have put him away decisively, or Frankie put Benson away decisively, or even if Frankie got the decision, even if Frankie got the decision and it was, still controversial, Frankie still could have walked away from that because he had already done the back-to-back rematches, because even though with the Gray Maynard fight, even though it was a draw, he didn't have to give that rematch either. The B.J. Penn one he didn't have to give, but of course B.J. Penn was the previous champ, and everybody was telling Frankie he didn't beat him. So there's definitely a pride thing there. But Frankie, was the first loss to his career was to Gray Maynard. Then Gray Maynard works his way back up to the title, kind of beats the shit out of him in the first round. Frankie comes back. I think he originally won that first fight, but whatever. It ended up in a draw. And really, Frankie could have said, no, I'm not fighting him again. He had his chance. It was a draw. Of course, then the message boards would have been abuzz saying he's a punk and he's dodging Gray. So I'm sure that's why Frankie really stepped back in there, because he needed to finish the business, because he's not the type of guy that can sit there and be thought of in that way, because the dude's a warrior. And then he came back and, of course, got the shit beat out of him again in the first round. But then he came back and knocked out Gray Maynard, so hats off to him. But, no, you're definitely right. It creates a logjam. And they're still saying that Nate Diaz, Jim Miller, is a title eliminator, but you're right. Anthony Pettis is there, and there's a good chance that he's going to leapfrog those two guys anyway. Dana still has to kind of say, no, it's still a title eliminator, because technically when those guys signed on the dotted line, they were both enticed to sign that fight against each other with the knowledge that it was a title eliminator. So, the right thing to do is to give them the next shot after the Edgar Henderson fight, but there's no guarantees. They're going to make the match that seems the most financially viable, especially if Benson comes out and finishes Edgar, or beats him again. They're probably going to want to get that Anthony Pettis Benson Henderson rematch because of how great a fight that first fight was back in the WEC.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? To be honest, I would rather see Jim Miller or, I'd actually be pulling for Nate Diaz in that fight. I'd rather see Diaz-Henderson than another, rematch with Pettis or Miller again. So, I mean, if one of those guys, Miller or Diaz, win that fight, the Pettis fight, he had that kick, but but other than that, it was a really close fight. I don't know if it was like that amazing that I'd want, desperately need to see that fight again, where I would leapfrog Pettis over the winner of Miller Diaz, though. So that's just personal, but
yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. I would rather see Nate challenge. I think Nate definitely poses some great challenges because of his size, his level of jiu-jitsu, and his striking, as unorthodox as it is. Him and his brother just throw these they're really good boxers, but the way they pull around in there and everything, you're not really sure where these punches are coming from. So, I still not really sure that Nate, can. Well, he's finished a few guys recently with strikes, so the strikes has got better. But I don't know. Henderson is a beast, so I'm not even going to say that Nate would go in there and finish him with strikes, and we all seen how tough he is to finish with a submission. So it's a tough fight to call, but I think Nate is the more interesting fight if Benson Henderson emerges to hold against Frankie Edgar with the title again.
Yeah. So that's what I was saying. I don't think if I was doing it, I wouldn't leapfrog Pettis over the winner of that fight, because we saw him fight Miller too already, but we've seen that fight, so especially if Nate wins that fight, I don't think that Pettis should leapfrog Diaz over that. Maybe if Miller wins it, who knows, but, if Nate wins that fight, I don't think he should get leapfrogged for the title, so whoever it is, whether it's Henderson or Edgar.
Yeah.
I know they want to get Pettis in there because, you can argue that he lost the WEC belt because, or the WEC belt disappeared because, he lost Guida, while he's waiting for the second Maynard fight, but I know they want to get him in there, but, there's other fights that are at least as interesting, if not more. So I think, Pettis is still young. He's got time. So, I don't think they should rush that in there like that.
No, I definitely agree. I think Nate's the best matchup to go there. But, of course, Nate's got to take care of business against Jim Miller. And
sure.
I love Jim Miller, but, I think I'm probably going to end up wanting Nate to win that fight as well. It's a tough call, Jim Miller being another Jersey guy and all. But, Jim Miller was really sick when he fought Benson Henderson. He didn't want to bring it to anyone's attention because, he's that type of guy. He's going to fight. And he is going to back out. It could just be, I don't want to call it an excuse, but, who knows? Benson Henderson might take care of him again. But Nate is really the interesting matchup. And yeah, I agree with you there, Steve, that if Jim Miller wins, then you definitely make an argument. If Benson Henderson wins, then you jump Pettis back in there for the rematch, and then you see if, I think Benson Henderson's probably going to beat Pettis this time, but that's, of course, just my opinion. What do you think, Bill?
I just, like I said, I think it just shakes up the whole division, and again, it just makes for some interesting fights, for the rest of the year. I personally would like to see Nate versus Henderson myself, or Nate versus the winner of the title fight, because it's not really something that we've seen. Nate, though, has pretty much gone on record as saying he doesn't really want to fight Frankie, like you said earlier. So, I don't know. I'm thinking that I would just like to see, Nate win that fight and, go from there. To be perfectly honest, that's the way I'm looking at it. Either way, you're getting decent fights. So,
You're definitely going to get a bunch of decent fights if Nate, wins. Even if he doesn't win, because Jim Miller's first loss ever was to Frankie Edgar. So if Frankie beats Henderson, then Jim Miller moves up there. He gets a chance to avenge his loss. You could also put Pettis there. That's more interesting. But it is a little bit of a tricky situation. So hopefully it does work itself out soon. But the 155-pound division is just one of the most stacked divisions. So this is just, it's a good problem to have, but at the same time, you just sit there and, everything gets log-jammed. And Frankie definitely deserved his rematch, but, this is what happens. And then you got all these great fighters that could possibly be champions or at least put on interesting title fights that are just sitting there waiting in the wings, waiting for their shots. So it's definitely a good situation to have, and we're all going to benefit from it. But, it's still a tricky situation. So, it's just the way it goes. But, Dana sat down with Frankie and definitely believed he deserved the title fight. So you can't fault him there. He wants the guy fighting at 145. He promised him an immediate title shot at 145. And you know what? Again, also if Benson pulls that out, they win again because Frankie goes down there. So there's just so much stuff in the lighter weight classes going on now that really are going to bring a lot of attention and really put up a lot of interesting fights down there.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah, but I think I'm going to hit the break early tonight, if you guys don't mind. I think we might be back after these messages, unless you guys want to throw something in real quick.
No, man, let's break.
Yeah, let's break?
Yeah.
All right, well, since I already let everybody know we're breaking, let me ask you guys this. Do you guys like blogs?
Yes, I read them all the time.
Do you really?
I do.
All kinds of interesting sports blogs, like baseball, football, all the good ones.
Yes. The baseball, football, particularly fantasy sports and things like that. Is there a place where I could maybe get all of that?
Absolutely there is. And we'll be back after this. Check this out, bxlog.com.
Do you think you... A new era has dawned in blogging. Log on to thexlog.com and experience new standards and quality in commentary and analysis. Powered by RotoExperts.com, thexlog.com brings together the top expert bloggers with all the very best the Internet has to offer. You don't have to search for the most compelling and entertaining posts and writers anymore. They will be at your one central hub for high quality. So join us as a new revolution begins in sports and entertainment, only at thexlog.com. That's THEXLOG.com.
The Butcher Block. Caller number is 347-326-9741. 347-326-9741. What's going on, fellas?
Same as it was about 30 seconds ago.
Same stuff? Really? I was hoping you guys got your piss breaks done and whatnot.
Oh, I got that done. Got myself a drink, you know.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Well, I didn't. I just went in my pants, so I'm sitting here in my own filth. Sorry.
Yeah.
No.
Whatever's the most convenient, man. Whatever's the most convenient.
Yeah, well, you know, we don't have a producer, so I just got to sit here and punch buttons and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm sort of just glued to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know I brought up Big Timmy Sylvia's name before the break. Figure maybe we should talk about him and stuff. And like I pointed out, it's gotten a little bit sadder and sadder as time has gone on. It all started. I want to refresh everybody. I want to set it back up. Of course, Tim Sylvia was, definitely talking on his Twitter account, trying to campaign himself back into the UFC. It started out with him saying that he could knock out 80% of the heavyweights in the UFC. Dana White kind of retorted by saying last fight he's seen Tim Sylvia fight was him getting knocked out in 7 seconds by Ray Mercer, which, that's a pretty bad one. Tim Sylvia, though, what's that?
But he's merciless.
Yeah,
okay?
He is merciless.
You got to give him a break. That man is merciless.
I agree. It's in the name, so you can't really count him out from doing anything sort of nasty and putting people on their backs like that. So
he's 60, but he's merciless. He's 60, but he's merciless. Okay,
that old fuck. But in Tim Sylvia's defense, since that fight, he has gone 7-1. Okay, he's all over the place, and most recently fighting in Pro Elite. The newly reformed company. So he has put up a respectable record since then, so obviously Dana hasn't, really been paying attention to Pro Elite too much. But, then Tim Sylvia kind of retorted back, saying how he'd like to be in the UFC, yada, yada, yada. He'd even fight for his old pay. Dana White ignored him pretty much, and, pretty much said he wasn't interested at a couple press conferences. Then all of a sudden Tim Sylvia started trying to get a campaign on Twitter, his followers and stuff, trying to bug Dana White, saying, put Tim Sylvia back in the UFC, put Tim Sylvia back in the UFC. And, then Tim said that he could knock out Struve, Travis Brown, and Christian Moorcraft, again, trying to say that he was better than these dudes. Again, no response. Mm-hmm. And then it finally ended with Tim Sylvia saying, listen, I will fight my first fight in the UFC for free to prove myself, just to get a shot. Now, listen, I know Tim Sylvia has been a former heavyweight champion in the UFC, and he's got a very respectable record. I believe he's 30-7 overall, maybe 31-7. I forget exactly. But and I'm not going to tell you what Dana's White answer is yet. I'm going to surprise you for the end of the conversation. It just really sounds really desperate. And now I'm starting to get worried about Tim Sylvia. Like, maybe I should drive up to Maine where he lives and see if he's okay. What do you guys think?
I don't think it sounds desperate. I think it 100% is desperate. You can't get any more desperate than that. And I think he's sitting there crying. He cries himself to sleep every night because he remembers past glories. And every time he watches, any of the old UFC stuff on Spike or anything like that, he's just like, yeah, I used to be part of that. And I think he needs a reason to get out of bed every morning.
Yeah,
I think he has I think he keeps in his room, a balloon and a gun. One for when he's sad, and one for when he's really sad.
One of us is in deep trouble.
Oh man. I guess the balloon's working right now. I guess.
For now.
Wow. I cannot believe that the maniac has said that he will basically work for pizza. And that's, that. Not even. He's like, you know what, skip the pizza. All right, I don't even need a room to change in. I'll just get dropped off at the curb, 5 minutes before my fight, and that's it. I don't. You don't even have to put my picture up on the billboards. All right. Oh my God, he's going to be working a dark match.
Maybe you should look into that. Maybe you should go to the pro wrestling. I'm sure they'd hire him on his name.
That's right. Yeah, maybe he does. Maybe he needs to, give Vinnie Mac a call. And Vinnie Mac can be the former, MMA UFC champion, and try to sell him that way, because
most dangerous
oh
man
my
in the
God,
world, perhaps.
If this guy is literally saying, look, I will fight for free just to prove myself that I belong back in the promotion, I can't believe that. I just did go to his Twitter, and, while you might be tricked into thinking he's getting a lot of support, because he has a lot of, he has quite a few retweets that, he's retweeting, I guess, all of his followers that are saying, come on, Dana, put him in. And, but I mean, once you get maybe about, I don't know, I want to say maybe 50 or more down, 50. And, I mean, this is a man who's a pro athlete, probably, how many followers does he have? He's only got 231 followers. So 50 of them decided to tweet at Dana in the UFC about giving him a chance. But the top one, and Tim still retweeted it, says,
oh, no.
Just give the man a fight. He said he'll fight for nothing, and I'm sick of it blocking up my timeline now.
It's so sick of it.
That is the first one. It was just retweeted an hour ago. But that is the first one on Tim Sylvia's Twitter page. And that is just a glowing endorsement. Someone saying, please give him the fight so I can stop seeing it in my timeline. Please.
Wow. That is telling. Holy shit. He's even desperate enough to not even tweet to tweet people who aren't even his fans at this point. That's fucking crazy.
What I find hysterical about this is that there are more people liking Roy Nelson on Facebook to get him to drop down to 205 than there are people retweeting Tim Sylvia to get him a free fight in UFC. All right, and that's fantastic.
Well, people like Roy, Billy. The thing is like, even though, obviously, You know, Roy's had some tough losses out there recently, and he's looked like a scraggled bum that they pulled off the streets, which I find to be very awesome of Roy, that he doesn't give that any kind of a fuck, that he just shows up like that. It just is awesome to me. And the best part is he wears a very nice suit, by the way, with the fucking homeless man look going on, which just is really polarizing. And I know, I don't even understand why nobody, you know, why he had to ask people to like him on Facebook. It should have just been automatic, in my opinion.
Well, he didn't actually ask anybody. He's got a bet. Who the hell was it with? He's got a bet that, you know, that if he had gotten 100,000 likes on Facebook, that he would, within 2 weeks, there was a cap
he's
on
close.
it. Yeah, he's like up to 750,000, and he's still got about 12 days to go. But there's actually been a wrench thrown into the plans for his weight loss, hasn't there? Yeah, he's who's next on the docket for him? He's going to be on 146, right?
He's going to be on 146, and what this smells like to me, which I'm very nervous now for Roy, as I specified before, big fan, think the guy's hysterical, think he's a warrior. What this fight smells of to me is you got to win, Roy, or you're fired. And Roy has been given another heavyweight fight after coming out and basically trying to give himself motivation to go down 205, which Dana would love for him to do. He just doesn't know if he can really do it because of his girth. He has been set up to welcome Antonio Bigfoot Silva, one of the top-tier heavyweights from Strikeforce, if anybody remembers. He's been put up there to welcome Antonio Bigfoot Silva to the UFC octagon, which I'm not saying Roy doesn't have a shot, but this is a real tough test for him, and I'm a little nervous for Roy's safety. He might not be a UFC fighter if he loses this fight afterwards.
Definitely. I mean, and where's he going to go? Strikeforce? Especially because he's just basically fighting a walking Easter Island head. I mean, Jesus,
really is.
The first picture I open up, and this guy's chin could seriously knock down a building if they attach him to the end of a friggin' chain. I mean, Bigfoot is just a really, really odd-looking dude. And yeah, I mean, no, he's for real. He's definitely a top-level heavyweight. So this is definitely going to be a test. And I mean, love him or hate him, and it seems like Dana, doesn't really dig him. I guess he likes his heart and all, but Dana's never really been a huge fan of Roy. I'm seeing this as a must-win. Because even if you want to apologize for Roy's losses for being against top-level competition. The fact is, he doesn't have a lot of wins under his belt since winning the Ultimate Fighter. So, how can you actually justify keeping him around for that much longer when you cut some guys who are on a three-fight losing streak, rather? Yeah, there are some guys because they're gamers and they come out and bang and put on shows and they get into wars. Right, that, survive the chopping block even when they're 5 fights deep into a losing streak. But Roy, on the other hand, yes, he's a warrior. Yes, he takes a beating, but that's kind of what he's done in his last couple of losses, too. You sit there and you're amazed at the amount of punishment that he can take and the fact that he can hang with these guys who are obviously in better shape than him. But he just takes a beating and, then ends up looking kind of tired. So
he looks like he needs a sandwich. Sandwich and a beer, and he'd be just fine.
Like he walked in and went, "What happened?"
Oh my God, Jesus, I'm tired.
Where's the bar?
Oh, poor Roy.
The man said I would get a quart of vodka if I did this.
Yum.
So
yeah,
I think I'll always, have fond memories of Roy Nelson in the UFC, but and I'll always remember him coming out to fat at the,
of course,
at the Ultimate Fighter finale. But I don't really give him that much of a chance against Silva. So I think that he'll be gone. I mean, he might not get, absolutely destroyed, but I don't really think that he can win that fight. I mean, anything can happen, but I think the odds are heavily stacked against him in that fight.
I definitely agree with you, Steve, but as we've seen with Roy's first 2 fights in the UFC, he wasn't supposed to win those. He wasn't. Everybody was like, you know what? All Roy ever did on The Ultimate Fighter was lay on dudes and just punch them softly in the head, and then he came out and knocked out Schaub, who was just steamrolling dudes. And then his second fight was against Struve, who's, as we know, 6'11", delicious looking. He's got great abs, and he's probably got a big old donger in those shorts too. You know what I'm saying? And not that I'm thinking about those kinds of things. I'm just pointing it out for the people out there what he might look like. Okay,
making observations.
Right,
reporting,
exactly.
if you will.
I mean, he's 6'11". It's got to be huge. That's all I'm saying. And then he just knocked him out. With that overhand right that he threw, he just crumpled Struve, and everybody was like, there's just no way Roy's going to be able to get in on him. So I agree with you. I don't really see him really having much of a shot in this fight, but Roy's a tough dude. He can absorb punishment, and you don't see it a lot because he hasn't had a chance to really use it. But he is actually a great Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner. So if it does hit the mat, it's not like he should, unless Silva's raining down punches, I should say. If it's a grappling match, then I think Roy might have a better edge than everybody thinks. But he could always get lucky. Now, he was knocked out in his last fight, Bigfoot Silva, by Daniel Cormier, who was going to be fighting in the very unimportant Strikeforce Heavyweight Grand Prix finale against Josh Barnett because there is no more heavyweight division, so I really don't understand the point of that. But I'm pulling for Josh Barnett hard there. I love the dude, but it doesn't matter when it's all said and done. But anyway, he was knocked out by Daniel Cormier. So even though he's got that giant Easter Island statue head, like Billy pointed out, and Billy, I just want to let you know you're very insensitive because the man had autism, okay? So guess what? You are a jerk. you get this. Exactly, Billy. 7'4", 550 pounds. But they cured it. They fucking went in there with a crowbar and pulled his pituitary gland out, so he's not going to keep growing. And he could be knocked out. So I'm hoping you're wrong, Steve. Maybe Roy gets lucky. You think he's got a shot here?
He would need to get lucky.
Oh, we just went silent. I mean, he's got a shot. Obviously, like you said, no one expected him to win his first 2 fights after The Ultimate Fighter. And he knocked out Skyscrape, who's about 85 feet tall. So
delicious.
And he did it without a stepladder. So he's got a shot. He's got knockout power. Yeah, he's got high-level jits, which you never get to see. Because you're distracted by his mullet and his belly every time he comes out.
Damn
but
right.
Does he have a great shot? No. He doesn't. But I mean, he's got a shot. He's a tough dude. He can take punishment if he can get inside and land a shot. Then yeah, he's definitely got a shot. I don't really like it if it gets to the ground because even though he does have some high level jits, I don't know. When you've got Bigfoot on top of you raining down punches, I think it's going to be kind of hard to grab for an armbar, to be perfectly honest. So. Yeah.
Well, he's got those extra long limbs, so, maybe Roy gets those legs past his belly and on up around it. You know what I'm saying?
Anything can happen. What I'm just really concerned about is that how this, throws a whole wrench into Roy's, get fit plan. Now if he loses and then loses his job, why is he even going to bother dropping down to 205?
Exactly.
I mean, he's going to continue to grow the moulet, and then he's going to basically achieve his own orbit because he's just going to keep eating, and you'll just be able to throw cars at him, and they'll spin around.
I agree with you. I agree. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to say I hate to use the word balloon, but he might just get depressed and eat a lot. You're right, Billy. You never know. It's possible, but I don't know. It smells. I hate to say, but it kind of smells like, yeah, they threw a wrench in his plans, and quite possibly they're looking at just a way to get rid of him and just distract him from his fitness plan, you know. And I think that's a very unfair move because I think Roy's given them a bunch of entertaining fights. I think they should be supportive of his weight loss.
Mm. Well, yeah, me too. I think, Dana, I just don't think Dana ever really got on board with Roy. We all know that when he was on The Ultimate Fighter, Dana was not a fan, and Dana wasn't exactly happy that he came out on top.
No.
But, it just seems sort of funny that, with his last bunch of losses, one of the things that Dana has said was, you know what, he should drop the weight. He should go down to 205. And the first time Dana said it, Roy sort of joked about it and was like, no, I'm fine. It's not that I'm not getting tired. I'm not getting winded. I'm not too fat. And then, Dana actually had like a come to Jesus meeting with him. And, after that he was like, well, you know what, maybe I'll drop, 20 pounds. Yeah, because Dana was like, Dana was like, look, at least hit 245. I'm not asking for much. Drop, drop a little bit. And then he did it. He came in. He was 243 in his last fight. So
246. Stop trying to shave off for him. Come on now.
Oh well, as a fellow fat guy, I'm shaving off some sympathy pounds for him.
Of course.
So,
yeah.
So he came in at 246 in his last fight. So he's obviously been kind of working on it. Now all of a sudden he's got this bet where, hey, if I get 100,000 likes on Facebook, I'm going to drop to 205. And Dana went, oh shit! Now he's called my bluff. He's called my bluff. You know what? Bigfoot needs an opponent. Roy, don't put down the cheeseburgers yet, okay, bud? Because you need to fight. You need to fight at heavyweight, at a pay-per-view. And so now he's got an excuse. It's like, okay, look, he never dropped down to 205. He's lost 4 in a row. Bye-bye.
No, he beat Crow Cop in there, Billy. Remember?
Oh, that's right. He did knock out Crow Cop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's right. You're right. Mm-hmm.
He could have been losing that fight until he landed that shot, though. So it was a kind of, he needed that knockout in the third.
Right. I forgot about the Crow Cop fight.
Yeah, he retired his ass. See you, Crow Cop.
That's right. So, all right. Yeah. So, but I think it's, it's loser leaves town. Oh, well, no, it's not loser leaves town. It's if Roy loses, he loses town. Silva's hanging out no matter what. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
They've been salivating over that guy since he first showed up in Strikeforce. They're like, Jesus, he's scary looking. He fits the part. Yeah. He's easily sellable.
Mm-hmm. His head showed up 2 weeks before he did.
It's fucking ridiculous, that thing. That thing is massive. It looks like an ancient skeleton type head. It's just insane.
It's
really
one of Crystal Skulls is what it is. It's just got skin on it.
Oh, Jesus. Indy better get over there and just fucking pull his face off and then get that skull. He needs to return it. I don't know. I don't know. I guess we're going to... It was. But we're going to stick with the heavyweight division. But before we continue, I never got to finish telling you what Dana White's answer was to Tim Sylvia, so I'm going to give Steve a guess. I'm going to give Steve a guess. I want to know what Steve thinks Dana White's answer was at a recent press conference, because somebody went to ask the question and Dana cut them off. So obviously he felt strongly about it. What do you think it was?
Probably going to be go fuck yourself, but I think part of him would love to see. Part of me would think that he would love to just say yes, so Tim could get his ass kicked, and then he could spit on him while he's down.
Uh-oh. You were right in the first part of your answer, and you should have stuck with it, because remember, your first instinct is usually correct. Dana White cut the reporter off and said, listen, I'm sick of hearing this shit, all right? He'll never be allowed back, and, he made his own bed, so that's the end of it. And so Tim Sylvia, this is why I said earlier, Rampage might end up like the next Tim Sylvia if he keeps taking shots at the UFC, because they can only take so much of that stuff when dudes badmouth them, And then Tim Sylvia, of course, didn't make the kind of money Rampage made, so I don't think Rampage is going to run into those kind of problems with his movie. Plus, he's making movies and stuff. But, Rampage better be careful, because if he needs to crawl back, he might not be welcome back.
Well, on the plus side, Dana doesn't hold grudges, so, he's got that going for him.
Oh, okay. All right, good point. It's a good point. So Rampage is fine then. Good call. So Rampage just keeps chatting away then. So sorry, Tim. I'm still going to follow his Twitter because it has led to a lot of amusing things that I've read. And I kind of like talking about Tim Sylvia every week. You know, we could call it like Tim Sylvia Corner or some shit like that. And just we could all get depressed and cry every week. It's the way I want to see it go. So keep it up, Tim. But going back to the current UFC heavyweight division, which Tim Sylvia is not welcome to come back to. And it's looking pretty interesting from here on out. Also at UFC 146, what a stacked heavyweight card this is. The contracts haven't actually been signed yet, but both fighters have finally verbally agreed to it, even though it's been rumored for a while. Frank Mir is going to be fighting Cain Velasquez in a #1 contenders bout to face the winner of Alistair Overeem versus Junior Dos Santos, which is also going to be on that UFC 146 card. But let's get to Frank Mir and Cain Velasquez. I want to know right now, obviously we got a couple months to go before this, who would you pick in this fight, Steve?
I don't know. My gut, if I went with my gut, I'd probably say Mir.
Nice.
But, you know, it's going to be very close. I think Cain's got better hands, and, you know, he's a wrestler, so he's comfortable on the ground. But I think, you know, Frank loves being on the ground, you know, himself. And, he, you know, now that after he tore off Nogueira's arm, I think he wants another one. So absolutely. I think Frank would be more than happy to take it to the ground. So, you know, and on the ground, I'd have to give it to Frank. So, you know, gun to my head, I'd probably say Frank.
All right, good, because I was putting a gun to your head, so I'm glad we got an answer out of you. Billy, who do you got in this?
I am also going to go with Frank Mir. That's if they can fit both fighters into the octagon, because once you've got Frank Mir in there and the amount of love that Frank Mir has for himself, there's really not a whole hell of a lot of room left in the building. But we've seen that Cain really can't take that good a punch, and I mean Frank, you know, he's not terrible on his feet. And if it goes to the ground, which I mean it's bound to, you know, I think Frank goes home with another trophy on his wall. To be perfectly honest with you, you know, I think it's better for Frank if it goes to the ground because obviously Cain likes to bang and he's got good hands and he's got, you know, good power. And I also don't think, of course, I said this when, you know, Brock in his last fight and Cain in his fight against Dos Santos, that, you know, wrestlers should wrestle strikers instead of trying to stand and bang with them. So I would assume that Frank would prefer to get it, you know, to the ground so that he can, you know, take a leg or an arm home with him, and not just stand there in front of him and trade shots with him, because I think he would eventually end up on the bad end of that exchange. But I think it goes to the ground, and Frank, you know, gets his #1 contender's spot.
I you know, maybe my opinion will change leading up to the fight, but I doubt it, because when Frank Mir talks, his ego's there, and between both him and his ego, it just sucks me in. And you know, I do like Frank Mir. I do agree with you, Billy. Frank has showed very improved stand-up skills, and of course, when he first got manhandled by Brock Lesnar, he started that weight training program where he's put on such mass. The dude's going to weigh in at about 264. He knows how to use his frame now. He's more fluid with it, so he's a massive man. With really good hands. He knows how to kick. On paper, I would say that Cain Velasquez should be the best.
It looks like we lost Bry because of what happens when, you know, they kick him off midway through the show. So, yeah, I guess Brian was just agreeing with the both of us because we were both brilliant. That Frank, while his stand-up game is improved, and, you know, he's got good hands, he's got good kicks, really where his bread and butter is you know, breaking boy.
Technical difficulty.
Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
we were keeping it running. You know, it's not like we stood. You know, actually we sat here and just kept going. So, do you want to say anything? Do you think we should say stuff? Would anybody mind if we just sat here and waited for him to come back? No. So go ahead, Bri. You were basically agreeing with how brilliant me and Steve were on our calls, even though Steve seemed uncomfortable with his call, and me, I'm positive with mine. So you're really agreeing with my brilliance. So
yes, I agree. I definitely agree. And you know, just to finish it up, I don't want to step on what you guys are saying. I just, I like you said, I'm agreeing wholeheartedly with you. I think Frank's hands is better, and if it hits the mat, I'm sorry, Kane. If you ain't in the right positions, you know, if you give up even the slightest bit of position, I agree with you, Billy. He's going to take an arm home with him. So, I'm sorry I slammed myself back in there. Go on what you guys were saying before I jump back in rudely.
We were filling time, brother. I was basically pretending.
That's all I'm doing too.
I was pretending that I could read your mind, and that you were just basically mirroring everything that I had just said.
Nice.
So, you know, and then at that point you said, "Hey, I'm back," and you know, so I was. Yes, that's right. So I was playing Kreskin. You know, I put on the turban and I held the envelope to my head, and was pretending to be able to predict what you were about to say. And
listen, I'm laughing at that. If Mom and Dad are laughing, listening, they're laughing at that. Steve's laughing at that. But that is a 30-year-old reference now, Billy. So
Brian, that's more like a 50-year-old reference, okay? And I mean, the fact of the matter is that, you know, I think we know about it because it was referenced in things. Yeah. We never actually saw Johnny Carson do that.
No, I know.
You know, so yes, that was a reference that will go over the heads of, if there was anybody listening, unless it was, you know, our elderly family members. You guys aren't old. I didn't mean that. Kisses. You know.
Really?
Yes, you're right. So, no one would get that. But nobody's listening, so fuck it.
No, exactly. So we'll say whatever we want.
Thank you, 7 listeners. So, so yeah, I think, you know, can I just go on record right now as far as this pay-per-view and be the douche that says they better reinforce that ring? You know,
Joe Rogan. Mauro Ronaldo, stop it.
Mauro Ronaldo. Yeah, that dude with, by the way, this is how often I do not watch Strikeforce. I mean, I had to, I know we're talking about the heavyweights and, you know, UFC 146 and, you know, how stacked the card is, but Saturday was the first time I had bothered to watch a Strikeforce event in probably a year. And it actually had nothing to do with the main event, but the main event, you know, surprised.
It's a shame.
But Mauro Ronaldo, who has always given me douche chills just because he's never met a cliche he didn't like. He's just constant hyperbole, and he just looked, you know, he's got the announcer voice, which I hate. The fact that he puts this type of thing on every single time he speaks completely bothers the shit out of me. And then he comes on screen for the first time, and I seriously almost fell out of my goddamn chair because now not only does he sound like a creep, and he already looked like a creep, now he was like a fucking cancer patient too because he shaved his head bald. And you told me that this happened like 3-4 months ago, but me, I was absolutely horrified that now, you know, that emo glasses wearing creep that with the announcer voice. Now he's got no hair either, you know. So, oh my God! I almost had to stop stealing that fight card because I was so scared of what I saw.
Listen, I agree with you. Mauro looks like a creep. And, I mean, he had a lot of great announcing and pride, you know, depending on what your level of greatness is. I agree. His shitty announcer voice is somewhat annoying. It has grown on me. The cliche thing I love because it's so terrible. And but you know what? Morrow is still 20,000 times better than fucking Frank Shamrock. They should fire Frank, throw him out of the building, and just let him and Pat Miletich, Morrow Ronaldo and Pat Miletich, talk about the fights. Because Frank just is so crazy. The shit that comes out of his mouth sometimes doesn't have anything to do with what's going on in the fucking cage. It's just ridiculous. I don't know what Frank's talking about. And this is a guy who's been in the sport for over 20 years and should know just as much as Morrow or Miletich, and the guy's just going off about horse shit half the time.
He's been in the sport for 20 years and been wearing braces on his teeth for at least 10.
Oh, shit.
It's really embarrassing when you see a middle-aged man with braces. I'm sorry. You know,
it is. I was speaking of that. I was looking at his. I believe it was his Facebook, and the great thing was because everybody, of course, you know, anybody who has any sort of celebrity, people just got to make comments, you know, like kissing ass most of the time, or just like, you know, maybe not even heavy duty kissing ass. And as I'm going through, like Frank's just smiling in one picture, and he's there with his son. I guess they're on a hike, and everybody's got all these great things to say, and all of a sudden, just in big capital letters, it says, "Hey, brah, when are you getting the fucking braces off?"
Oh, internet. I love you.
Did Kenny say that? Was that from Kenny?
I don't know. I wish it was Kenny because they hate each other. I wish it was Kenny.
That would make perfect sense. It was Kenny. He just bombs his brother's Facebook page. They hate each other.
Those braces out of his face. That is fucking amazing. That it really is. Oh God,
that's great.
I know we're already down to like 30-something minutes. What's that?
Another thing, though, Morrow Ronaldo, he's not only in love with cliches, he also thinks he's clever. Because when guys were talking, when Miletich and Frank were talking about ring rust, Morrow kept trying to get in, going cage corrosion. Like, oh, it's not ring rust because we're not in the ring, guys. We're in the cage. And I just came up with this. Look at me.
I'm going to say that's clever.
Wow.
I'm on Morrow's side here.
You know what? The first time he said it, I was like, oh, that's clever. The sixth time he did, I wanted to reach through my damn computer screen and strangle him. So,
that's amazing. Oh, I love Morrow Ronaldo. Come on, Billy. You got to warm up to him. It is just, he is the worst, best announcer in the world.
There's nothing I like. There's nothing I like about a straight, I don't have a fighting promotion, but there's just nothing I like about a Strike Force broadcast. I mean, Morrow Ronaldo is terrible. Frank Shamrock, like you said, is insane, is sometimes completely off topic, and he's a 50-year-old man wearing braces. Jimmy Lennon Jr. completely sucks ass as a ring announcer, and as far as the camera work goes, I feel like I'm watching a mid-'90s episode of Monday Nitro. Okay, I seriously do.
Yeah.
I mean, the production values are like that. It's like, you know.
Go on. I'm sorry. You said it's like a Nitro, and I had to get this going.
I heard so much white noise when you first hit that, I didn't realize it was the NWO music. So, you know. I had to double check last week. I had to double check last week during the show because whenever you were playing music, I couldn't hear you or Steve, and it just sounded like noise. I couldn't even tell it was being played. So I had to actually take my headset off for a second and then turn on the sound on my computer to see if it actually sounded like anything. And it does. You know, you don't have to worry. It doesn't sound like shit on the other end.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
The sound drops, I hear those fine in the headset. Anything with anything more complicated than somebody talking. I guess it's just the fact that I'm wearing a $3 headset to talk to you.
Yeah.
So,
well, no matter what, you know, for everybody who might be listening, we do this from phones because, you know, even though I do make an exorbitant amount of money doing radio shows. The people we do it for do not have a proper studio, so we do it through this thing called Blog Talk Radio, which is pretty awesome just because, everybody could be sitting at home and hanging out and stuff and doing it. So, I'm not really dogging it that much, but it is a very kind of like simplistic way to do things. So what happens is since we got, phones to your ear, Billy, everything overmodulates and has music in it. So it's like even when I play like the beginning of the show, I don't know if the music hits right because it just goes into my headset. And I go, I'll let that play for a while. If it's too annoying, who gives a shit?
Yeah, who cares? I can't hear it.
Yeah, no, exactly. I just go, all right, a minute, 2 minutes, depending on when I decide I want to jump in and start things off, because I'm like, wait, we got time to kill. Maybe I should play this longer.
Maybe I should play this whole song.
Well, before we get back on topic, since we did run into the Strike Force thing, I want to give you a little something from Dana White. Pertaining to Strike Force. Of course, again, on Monday's show, he said he's completely done with Strike Force, doesn't give a shit. Showtime's in charge of it. But he did say this after Saturday night's fight. He said Ronda Rousey was going to be a huge star. He said it was an amazing fight, and, they did what they needed to do. They sold the shit out of the fight. But then he followed it up with this. He still thinks there's not enough talent in the women's division to create a women's division. So I believe that's a bit of a mixed message, which tells me women's MMA is not on the Zuffa docket. So, I know 2 weeks ago we brought up the Invicta promotion. I'm sure we're going to be seeing all the chicks go over there because Dana would just love to fold this thing. He's just counting the days till that Showtime contract is up.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think he's right, though.
Yeah, you got to,
there's Rousey and Tate and, Kaufman. And that's really it. Other than that, whatever chick fight you want to see. I mean, yeah, the Tate Rousey fight was supposed to be amazing. I didn't watch it. But outside of that fight, and then maybe the Kaufman fight next. Once you get past that fight, who else do you want to see her fight? There's nobody else. I mean, yeah, like those two fights might be good, but I don't think he was trying to be like a dick like he used to. Like I know he used to despise women's fighting. I don't think he does that anymore, but I think he's just saying there's just not enough. After the next fight, we don't have another fight, so I don't know what to do with the women's division. So I think he's moved past his utter hatred for it. I think he's just saying that there's nowhere to go from here, though.
No, you're probably right, Steve. It just, and Dana is, I really do like Dana White for being usually completely honest when he speaks. Obviously, there are some calculated things that not only does he have to say or he wants to say because, it is a better business decision, but, it just sort of was a really kind of like backhanded thing. Obviously he said this was an amazing fight, but basically he made it sound like, sometimes the stars align and you get two really great athletes in there basically saying, without really saying it, women's MMA is still shit, and it's not because there isn't talented fighters. Obviously, we saw two talented fighters, well, actually four, because the undercard had Sarah Kaufman and Alexa Davis, and that was, I didn't get to see it because I got to the place where I was watching the fights a little late, but it was supposed to be an amazing back-and-forth battle as well. It was mainly a boxing match, and which is what Kaufman mainly is. But, again, like you said, there isn't, out of those four girls, who is there? Cyborg is, of course, on suspension because of her steroid use. She fights in the 145-pound division anyway. If that clears up, Rousey normally fights at 145. She could move up and possibly challenge her, but then again, after that happens, where do you go from there? Gina signed to make another movie, and she hasn't fought in so long. It'd probably be terrible if she came back anyway. And I think most of the other top-level women's fighters are going to the Invicta promotion. So, they're. I know I've been saying Strikeforce got to turn into a women's division, but how can you do it if these girls are signed to a few fight deal in this other promotion and they're looking to get away from it? So I don't know. I guess that's just more of like a pipe dream, but especially with Dana saying he's done with the promotion and still doesn't see women's fighting as viable. There's nothing going to happen with Strikeforce or women's MMA.
And if it gets down to it, Dana will just buy Invicta. So if it really gets that popular and that much of a moneymaker, I'm sure Zuffa will just buy it. So he's just like, you know what? Let them have the growing pains. Let them do all the legwork. And if it really becomes where I was wrong, where women's MMA is kind of a force, then, we'll just buy it. And then all the groundwork is done. All the fighters will be signed. I don't have to go through all that headache. And, all that's done. So I think he's just going to let them do all the work for him.
I agree with Steve.
Most likely.
I agree with Steve. I mean, I'm going to not take back what I said the last couple times we discussed the women's fighting. I will say that on the fight card that I didn't, that I didn't get illegally. I was kidding when I said that before. Wink, wink.
Of course. Yeah.
But
no one does that.
I was impressed with what I saw. It was still out of a possible 5 rounds championship fight. It was still, you got to take into consideration it was over in, before the end of the first round. So, I mean, was it an exciting fight? Was it an interesting fight? Yes. Was it a highly, highly competitive fight? No. You had one person. If it had stayed on its feet, then Misha would have probably knocked her the fuck out. And because it got to the ground, even though Misha, is touted as, a pretty damn good wrestler, it got to the ground. Rousey didn't, yes, she finished it with an armbar, but she got an armbar, it was the second armbar she attempted in the first round. She almost had a submission, like a minute and a half in. Okay, so again, yes, it was exciting because Misha, basically went at her, started blasting her in the face, but Rousey went to the ground, got it to the ground, grabbed a hold of that arm like everybody knew that she was gonna, didn't sink it in enough the first time, but ended up finishing the fight in the way that everybody expected her to, by armbar. So was it exciting to watch? Yes. Was it a satisfying fight to watch? Yes. Was it, highly competitive, the quintessential women's fight, to put it, that yes, this is a completely marketable thing. I'm not completely sold. I mean, yes, it did what it was supposed to. It kind of, it did in a way live up to the hype because it was a finish and it was exciting. But again, to me, it still was one girl outclassing the other girl. Okay, and while Misha wasn't completely dominated, she was still finished pretty damn quickly. In the first round.
But that happens.
I know that happens. I know it happens.
Fighters everywhere.
I know it happens, and I know it happens to high-level fighters all the time. But what I'm saying is that there's not as much of fallback for women's MMA. Okay, these two girls, yes, they're at the top of the game. But for somebody who that was the first fight they saw, first women's fight, because nobody's going to look for Showtime Extreme to watch the prelims. They're just going to see the girl who looks like she was beat with a frying pan sitting in the audience, watching the other two girls.
Doesn't she kind of look like Sloth's sister from the Goonies?
Yes, absolutely. So.
Love you, Sarah Kaufman.
Sarah Kaufman looked like she had spent, a couple of years with Ike Turner. All right, sitting at. That's another old reference for our older family members. But I agree with Dana. I still agree with Dana. There is not enough talent in talented fighters in women's MMA to make a viable division. And like Steve said, they would have to do way too much legwork right now if they did want to make a viable division or change Strikeforce into an all-women's promotion. They would have to cannibalize the women's division in Bellator. They would cannibalize them. They would have to go. They would have to go after the fighters that are in this Invicta promotion. Okay, yeah. So they would have to do a lot of work to build the product that they don't really have a hell of a lot of faith in. So I agree with Steve. I think that while yes, Misha and Ronda are probably going to be big stars if women's MMA catches on, I think Dana and the Fertittas are going to stand by and let somebody else do it. And then if it becomes a viable business option, then they're going to buy out whoever the hell does it, whether it's Bellator or Invicta. You know, that's what they're going to do. Once they've got the Strikeforce headache dead and buried, you know, they're just basically going to let all the girls either go to Bellator or to Invicta, and they're going to watch, and they're going to say, oh, you know, okay, hey, look, Invicta is actually getting some pay-per-view buys, or they're selling out, you know, a couple of houses, you know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Maybe there is a fan base for this. Maybe this is marketable, you know, and then they're just going to write a check and, you know, then run that promotion instead. So.
It's a good point. And you know what? I definitely, I'm going to be highly, even more agreeable than you, because I'm going to agree with both you and Steve on your points. Because I thought that was a great point that Steve brought up about the Zuffa letting this other promotion do the legwork and try to make it marketable, and then just swooping in with their billions of dollars in their back pocket and just laughing. Mwah, thank you. No, it's a very solid point, and you know, it does actually make more sense because since it is a pretty dodgy area, and you know, obviously there's more and more, you know, legitimate women fighters coming up, but absolutely, you know, there is still a shortage. I do have to admit that, and there is also, you know, to pull a term in that's been around forever. In men's MMA, there are a lot of tomato cans walking around in the women's division. There are a lot of girls out there. You know, there's some legit girls, and some of them, you know, you don't think it because, you know, they fight for small promotions and stuff, but there are a lot of girls who, of course, get the buzz, like, you know, people like Kim Couture, who happen to marry Randy Couture and divorce him as well, you know, who were just riding off the Couture name, which she kept in their divorce, so she can go and get paid, you know, a decent amount of money to go get knocked out or choked out in the first round. So there is that problem, and you know, I guess Dana is right on that, and he should, you know, be smart about it and not dump a shit ton of money into it and just see how it pans out. But you brought up Bellator, Billy, who does have a women's division, and you know, I know we're not huge into the Bellator, and you know, I looked at this card, and you know, I don't know a lot about some of these guys. A couple of the dudes' names I kind of recognize, like Ronnie Mann and the two main eventers and stuff. But, you know, it's something that we should try to focus on. There is an event Friday, which, unfortunately, not only do I not get MTV2, but that's the debut of The Ultimate Fighter, so I will not be watching it live. I will find the fight somewhere on the Internet on Saturday and probably check it out then. And that's, you know, I've just got to be honest. But I figure we can blaze through it either quickly or take up the last 15 minutes here with it, and then get to something else. But, you know, I figure we should do it. Throw a little bit of fantasy play in here because, you know, I guess technically we are in there. We don't have to do the same thing that, you know, those jerk-offs on that other show do, Cauliflower for the Year. But, you know, I am going to throw it around a little round table and get your picks.
Oh, boy.
Friday starts it's Bellator 60. It's the start of the featherweight tournament. The current champion is Joe Warren. He's 7-2. His nickname, which I love, is the baddest man on the planet, which is a very long nickname. And I know if I was an announcer, I'd just say BMOTP because it's easier. And I don't have to say all these syllables and everything. But he's going to be opening up the first leg of the tournament against Pat Curran, whose brother was actually Jeff Curran, who fought in the WEC and was a top contender. He fought for the title. Now, Pat doesn't have the accolades that his brother has, but he's coming into this fight at 16-4. He's got 4 wins by KO, 5 subs, 7 by decision. And the champ is 7-2. With two KOs and 5 decisions, so I'm not feeling he's all that well-rounded. You know, obviously he did win the title and everything, but he's relying mainly on a wrestling background. So I want to see, I'm going to toss it over to Steve, I want to see who he picked in this fight, because we're going to try to do like a speed round with this, just to get it in there, just to work it in, because obviously we're going to have to check the events out to really get a feel for these dudes as this tournament progresses. But anyway, Steve, who do you see winning this fight here?
I'm going to have to go with Curran because I just don't believe Warren. I think that's, I don't believe that he's the baddest man on the planet. I can't.
Thank you.
I can't follow him. I can't follow him down that road. That's quite a statement. Quite a statement. So just to prove that he's not, I'm going to pick against him.
Well, I agree. How do you got him winning? How do you think he's going to win this fight?
I don't think he probably knocks him out. Say,
you think he knocks him out?
Yeah. I think I think a lot of people don't think. They think that, again, they agree with me because most people do. But I think it's a bold statement, and they want to show him up. So
I can't blame you one bit there. I got to agree with you. I think Curran's the more well-rounded fighter. Obviously, his brother coaches him and everything, so he's bringing that into. You kind of trying to channel his brother's experience in the fight, and I just feel he's more well-rounded. They're both wrestlers. Joe Warren is, an elite-level Greco-Roman wrestler, but Curran has a wrestling background as well, which he's also transitioned into the MMA world. And I think he's gonna beat him, Joe Warren, in the second round by submission. And so that's what I'm going with here. What do you think, Billy?
Well, this is going to be the second time I'm going to use this joke, but I know as much about Bellator. I know as much about Bellator as Dominic from Eatontown knows about MMA. All right.
Alphas is in deep trouble.
But I am going to say that unfortunately I have the same pick as you two guys, because I just looked up where this man is from, and he's from Crystal Lake. Okay? And if he survived living in Crystal Lake, but he survived Jason Voorhees, that means, okay? so that means that he is actually the baddest man on the planet. All right? I am going to pick Mr. Curran, however, by split decision.
Wow. Split decision. All right, I like that. I think you're dead on there. Patty Mike, that's his nickname, which is just goofy and way better than baddest man on the planet. But yeah, being able to elude Jason Voorhees and fight off all his attempts at death, at killing you, is definitely one of can qualify you as the baddest man on the planet. Probably one of the hardest raps ever created by one deceased Macho Man. Talking about how he's the toughest man out there, Hulk Hogan's punk. So, I agree. I think that's an easy pick here. So if you're in a secondary, these are called secondary fantasy leagues. So it kind of shows you the respect that these other events get that aren't named UFC. So if you're in a secondary league, go with us. We're the pros here. We got Pat Curran winning by different methods, but either way, it's a Pat Curran W here. And I feel it, you guys feel it. So we said it, and it's done. Moving on to the next fight. It's the monster from Rio, Marlon Sandro versus Roberto Beto Vargas. Again, oh no, wait, I skipped the fight. Did I? No, I got that's the next fight. That's the co-main event. Sorry, guys. I'm going to throw it over to you, brother. Who do you got here? I'm going to shut this music off because these guys don't deserve it.
Well, I was looking at both of these fighters, and while I do like the fact that that Marlon Sandro does have 23 fights to his credit, and he's won about 7 of them by TKO. I cannot go against the sweet beard, and Roberto Vargas has a sweet beard. Okay, so I am actually going to go with Roberto Beto Vargas. I hope I'm saying that right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right.
I'm going to go with second round sub.
Nice.
And aside from the sweet beard, I'm just going to be a homer and just go USA, USA, USA. Okay.
Well, I had a tough time picking this one. Roberto Vargas is on a 6-fight winning streak. But you know what it came down to for me? The fact that Marlon, like you said, has 23 fights. you know, I think he's probably got the better stand-up in there, and plus, his nickname's Monster, okay? I'm a big fan of monster movies. I like Godzilla. I even like Cloverfield, okay? And I don't know if everybody out there like Cloverfield. So I like monster movies, so I got Marlon Sandro winning by unanimous decision just because I think Roberto Vargas is a very tough dude, and I think Godzilla ain't going to beat him. Well, the monster. I'm just calling him Godzilla now just because that's what I want to do. I don't think he's going to be able to knock him out or submit him, but I think Marlon's going to take the decision. What do you think, Steve?
I got Vargas by third-round hairball for the win. So, because that sweet beard, you know, he's going to get the extra. You know, that thing he probably has his own life force, and he'll choke it himself. So, no, I think Vargas wins it.
All right. What's that?
I think Vargas wins this. I think he wins it by decision. You know, he's won most of the 5 of his wins have been by decision. So, I mean, he doesn't have a couple subs in there, so it's either going to be a sub or a decision. But I think that you know, the monster, you know, holds out. You know, so I don't think either one finishes. I think Vargas wins by.
Well, he is a monster. It does make sense.
But he
also
either
has
way,
9 you know.
he also has 9 decisions. So neither one of them, you know, finish the fight all the time. So I think this goes to cards, and I'm sure the judges will fuck it up.
In your favor, I guess. Or do you mean they'll put it in my favor? Either way, if it goes in my favor, I'll be happy too if they mess it up. But moving on to the next fight of the night, pits Ronnie Kid Ninja Man against Mike Corey, who I don't really know, and I really couldn't find much on him but his fight record. I do know that he's pretty much a wrestler, and he is a replacement for Ronnie Man's original opponent. So it threw up some red flags for me. Okay. Second of all, Ronnie Man, as it states in his nickname, he's a ninja, and that's going to be pretty tough to take down. So I've got Ronnie Man subbing out Mike Corey in round 1. What do you feel, Bill?
Well, in my literally 30 seconds of research that I just did just now, unless the Bellator website is incorrect, apparently Mr. Mike Corey is neighbors with Curran. He's also from Crystal Lake, and somehow has found a way to survive.
I didn't know this.
Yeah, apparently. So unless that's a typo, I'm going to go with Corey with a third round sub for the W. You know, that's what I'm going with. That's the story. I'm sticking to it.
Nice, I like it. I've already said mine, and it's on tape, so I can't change it. If I would have known that fact, that fun fact, perhaps I wouldn't have chosen what I chose. Steve, what do you think?
I think I'm going to go with Ronnie Man with a second-round sub. He does have 11 of them on his record, so it looks like he likes to do that. So that's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, you know, and plus he's a ninja. I don't know if I said that before.
I don't know. There's a website called Ronnie Iron Man, not Ninja Man.
Oh. He's Kid Ninja, and I don't care what they call him. He's Kid Ninja. That's what I found. Okay. Listen, it might be a dated nickname, but I don't care. That's what I found. Sticking to it. Take that. The next fight pits Alexandre Becerra versus I can't read my handwriting. I think it's Janair da Silva.
There you go.
Janair, right?
Yeah. Junior PQD, whatever the frig that means.
Yeah, I apparently must have gotten bored, and I didn't really do any research on this one, but I did write down who I thought was going to win. And I said Becerra, sub-round 2. So I must have seen something out there that made me gravitate to that. So I'm curious what you think, Billy.
Well, this is the fight for the men whose names I'm going to have the hardest time pronouncing. So let's see. So I'm going to just call them by their nicknames. Apparently, Becerra is Popo, He's Mr.
Yes.
Oh man, you know what? I was going to go the opposite way of you just to be interesting, but this guy's nickname is Popo. I'm still, you know what? I'm sticking to my guns. I'm going to go with Junior PQD. Again, I have no idea what that nickname means, and I don't care. I'm going to go with a first-round KO.
Ridiculous. Billy, Popo lives with Kami, okay? Jesus Christ already. Steve, what do you think?
Well, I think you're going to have to agree with Billy here. I'm going to go with Junior PQD. I'm going to go with a third-round knockout.
Ooh, listen,
because
I know Popo.
He is Mr. Popo, which means that he's a nobody. He's a slave, pretty much. So how good can he be?
Ouch.
Because Mr. Popo was Kami's slave. So, I mean, he was never a fighter. So I don't trust people who are named Mr. Popo.
Oh, man. Jesus, you guys are both racist just because, he happens to be a servant and, we never saw him fight. He had to have picked something up, okay? Jesus Christ. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the last fight, and, we'll wrap up the card here. It pits... I love that. You know who I'm picking here, okay? Yeah, I don't even have to go on. Jeremy Spoon versus Daniel Strauss. Spoon UD. He's undefeated. His last name is Spoon, which is the Tick's battle cry. I can't say enough about this dude. I love him. The other guy, suck it. Billy or Steve. You know what, Steve? Why don't you go first? Then we'll finish up with Billy here.
I got nothing to add to that. The exact same reasons. How could you go against the Tick? It's not possible. So, I mean, for the same reasons, if anything, I might say, a third-round sub, just to change it up. But nice. I never bet against the Tick, ever.
No, absolutely not. All right, brother. What do you got here?
I was going to try to be funny and go opposite you guys, but I'm looking at Daniel. Well, I did. I said I was gonna, but it's just not. It's not happening because out of his 17 wins, only 7 of them are stoppages. And even though the picture on the website, he's staring at me and he kind of frightens me. I'm still going to go with Spooner. I'm still going to go with Spooner with a second round sub because he's beautiful. To do that. Mm-hmm.
I definitely think that's the right call here. The problem with this is, obviously we want to start talking more Bellator and everything, but unfortunately they're going to be on Fridays, which is the Ultimate Fighter.
The Ultimate Fighter.
So we're going to have to try to, exactly. We're going to have to try to catch up over the weekend.
MTV2, who, MTV, is the same company that owns Spike. They're putting Bellator fights on, yes, Spike is putting on old UFC stuff, but MTV2 is putting on new Bellator stuff on purpose to counter-program.
Okay. They're going to lose.
Fighter. So it's still...
sound decision.
It's still, so it's going to be pretty much as often as they can. As often, anytime they have a Bellator fight, it's going to be going up against the Ultimate Fighter, apparently. So
that's ridiculous.
And you know what? I don't know if I can tie up my DVR on Friday nights like that. I just don't know if I can.
No. So, I'm just going to have to find it somewhere online the next day. And I'm probably going to cheat and just find the stuff I read about being interesting fights. Probably won't even watch the whole card. I'm going to be honest.
Which is a shame. Which is actually a shame because the couple times that I've watched Bellator, and it's usually...
They're great.
Yeah, they are. They actually do put on a lot of entertaining fights. It's just that I used to not know where the hell they were at all. It was one of those things where I was flipping through all the channels and happened upon them. But anytime that I've stuck around long enough to actually see the fights, they've all actually been pretty, pretty interesting. So, it's a shame that I'm probably going to be dialed in to the Ultimate Fighter on Friday nights instead. So,
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. Obviously this Ultimate Fighter, the first one's going to be 2 hours with all the, 16 fights, and Dakota Hardcore, the gay porn star, trying to fight his way into the house, which I think is going to be fucking really interesting if he makes it. So it's going to be 2 hours. So the rest of the episodes are probably only going to be an hour, more than likely. So I mean, there is a chance to catch the tail end of the Bellator events. I know I won't remember this Friday. Plus, I don't think we get MTV2. So
no, we don't.
Somehow I wrap myself into a terrible cable package. But hey, whatever. I'll maybe figure that out another time. But for people who do get MTV2, you can switch over afterwards if you're not playing video games or something afterwards. And I'm just kidding, of course. If you like fights, they do put on good fights. But we got a couple more minutes here, and I wanted to touch on something real quick before we get into the wrap up. Another thing, because I wanted to talk about this tonight anyway. I brought it up on Monday's show. Deals with Strikeforce again, another nail in the coffin for Strikeforce for not doing any sort of fact-checking or background checks on their fighters. I brought up Brandon Sailing on the Monday show. Obviously, he's a white power skin. It's advertised all over his body. That's not my main issue with the guy. He was convicted of gross sexual assault back in 2005 against a 13-year-old girl, which is the main thing that everybody should really hate this guy for. Because Steve, I'm actually going to ask your opinion. I mean, obviously it's an ugly statement the guy makes with his tattoos and everything, but it is still a free country, so that's the dude's opinion. I guess he can put that on his body, but my main issue is the fact that he's a scumbag, and helped perpetrate a rape against a 13-year-old girl. But his license has been revoked now, because he has lied on all his applications because he's never revealed his past. But I think it's the right decision if the guy didn't disclose it, because it is something they ask of these guys because they know they're fighters. Not saying that all fighters are scumbags and disgusting creeps. A lot of them are highly educated, really nice guys, but it does take a certain mentality, and that some guys would fall into those traps of violence and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's the right decision, but I just wanted to ask you guys' opinion on it real quick, because like I said, I wanted to talk about it tonight anyway. But I think it's the right decision. What do you feel about it, Steve?
I think it's right. If you're lying on your applications, no matter what tattoos you have, that shouldn't even come into play. If you're lying on your applications, whatever, that's what you get fired for. The tattoos don't bother me. I could give two shits. I say crazy shit all the time, so that doesn't bother me. But yeah, I mean, if you're not disclosing everything, if you're trying to hide that fact, then you're gonna get bit in the ass for it, and it looks like that's what happened. So I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with the tattoos either. It's just I don't have a problem with him getting fired for lying on on all these forums and shit. So it seems pretty cut and dry to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the violent criminal past, but it is definitely an issue, and obviously he's not putting it on the applications because who would fucking say, yeah, you can get a license to fight, and I know, of course, everybody's entitled to make a living, but of course everybody's entitled to run their business the way they want to, and unfortunately, fighting does involve a spotlight, so you kind of have to tread a line there that you don't want too many crazy people in there. I mean, take, for instance, the guy who changed his name to War Machine. That guy's a maniac, but he hasn't ever been convicted of raping anybody or anything. He gets into bar fights and injures people, Nobody will hire the dude. So, and this guy, he obviously, he helped rape a young girl, so he shouldn't be, allowed to fight either.
Shouldn't be allowed to breathe, much less fight, but...
Absolutely.
But okay, notwithstanding that, okay, never mind what he did, okay, which is reprehensible, and whether you agree with his politics or not, he lied on his application. That's it. It's not so much what he did; it's the fact that he didn't disclose it. So, would he have gotten the job in the first place, or would he have gotten licensed in the first place? Probably not. So that's, he's done. He's got to